Welcome to all of you. First, I want to see a show of hands. Who watched the debate last night? Oh, excellent. All right, Barbara, what was your reaction to the debate?
I think they both got flustered a couple of times. I don't think that either one said anything that hadn't been heard before.
How about your mind? Was it changed? Did you come away
No.
from the debate? No. What were you thinking about? Who was your candidate going in?
Trump,
And still Trump coming out?
yeah.
Okay, excellent. Kimberly, what was your feeling about the debate?
Actually, I thought there was more mudslinging than I've seen, particularly from Hillary. That kind of surprised me. I don't think I've noticed her to, it was if they aim high, we aim higher, or something like that was her quote, and it didn't feel like she was doing that last night. They did both get flustered a little bit a couple of times. I agree with Barbara.
Did you change your mind on who you were going to vote for?
I wish it did, but I'm undecided.
Still
I'm like
undecided.
one of two people in the country undecided.
All right, well, that's why you're here. Ed, what did you think about the debate?
I thought it was very interesting. I capsulized it into one word, which is economy, and the push to socialism, which one party is doing. And it reiterated that very much last night. And I took away one huge lie during the debate. And none of the analysts picked up on it or mentioned it. And this was so blatant that I got a little bit mad watching it, so I shut my mouth when I get that way.
What was the lie?
It was by Hillary when Mr. Trump accused her. The problem they had in Chicago, outside of his meeting in Chicago, he told her, you paid for these people. That's on tape. They did pay for these people to be the rabble-rousers in Chicago, the murder capital of the country. And he put it right on her. She danced around it and spun around it for 5 minutes, never denied it. Mm-hmm. So if they paid for the rabble-rousers, didn't they also pay for these 8 women that all of a sudden came out of the woodwork? Yes, they did.
Caitlin, what did you think about the debate?
I think what the debate has ultimately brought forth in the country is just voter awareness. I think for the first time in the last 40 or 50 years, we've had such a unique election cycle. And what it's done is it's really brought forth everybody's attention. And everybody from every walk of life, every color, every creed is now politically invested in this campaign. And I think that not necessarily much has changed from debate to debate. I mean, we're looking at the Democratic nominee and the Republican nominee, and those ideals have essentially been the same.
How about you? What about your personal view about the candidates?
I think my personal view about the candidates is that I think when you're looking at Trump or Hillary and fitness to be president, there's a couple things you need to consider when you're looking at what qualifies them to be president. And I think the first thing you look at is obviously the experience that that individual maintains. And I think the second thing you look at is their integrity. And I think both of those candidates have advantages and disadvantages in those regards. And so, I mean, when you're looking at Hillary and her experience, she has tremendous political experience. She's an intelligent woman. She's been a first lady. She's been a senator. She's been Secretary of State. And on one side of the coin, that's advantageous because I think there's a political knowledge base that you pull from in order to be, a future president of the United States. But also I think on the other side of the coin, what that does is it brings forth these thoughts that, we just keep perpetuating these career politicians within American politics. And right? But when you look to Trump, you can look at his lack of experience as perhaps something that does not put us at an advantage when, he's going to be discussing domestic or foreign policy. But also on the other side of the coin, what you're looking at is perhaps, you're not perpetuating, again, that career politician in Washington.
So you went into the debate last night with, what was your opinion about the two candidates? I mean, did you have a favorite?
No, I did not.
And coming out of it, what was your feeling?
I think I identify with a lot of the millennial generation right now, and where I don't believe either of the presidential candidates are necessarily the best fit to run our country. And I think that our voice has oftentimes been paralyzed in that regard because we've been kind of placed in a situation where we're choosing between the lesser of two evils. And that is absolutely not what I want for the future
So you're
of
still
America.
undecided?
Absolutely.
Corey, what about you? What did you think about the debate last night?
The debate was good. I don't think that it really was intense enough to sway people one way or the other. I think it was really just bringing up their points of views, where they stand on them, and kind of giving the world an idea of, hey, this is the direction I'm going, this is what I want, you know, if you're with that, you know, follow me. So it didn't sway me either way. I still am a supporter of the Democratic Party, not saying an individual per se, but I do believe the views of, you know, the Democratic Party and where they want to take the country. So I definitely still stand on the side of Hillary.
What about you, John?
You know, I'd like to tie into it. Kayla? Caitlin said earlier about the lesser two evils. You know, Ralph Nader had a great quote a while back, said, you know, when you choose between the lesser two evils, you get the evil of two lessers. And I think that's what's happened. Like, you know, part of this conversation last night, as I mentioned earlier, I thought I was watching SNL. You know, I thought it was like a preview for SNL this weekend. So it's challenging because, you know, you have on one side Hillary Clinton, who is very experienced, but she is a long-term calculating politician, sort of like doing bad for the greater good, as they say in House of Cards. And then on the other side, you have Donald Trump, who sort of reminds me of the character from The Big Lebowski, Walter Sobchak, the erratic Vietnam vet that John Goodman played. No aspersions to John Goodman. So it's a challenging time for us. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm still pretty undecided. I'm kind of cynical about the process. As I said earlier to one of your folks, you know, I don't know if I'm cynical because I'm an economist, or I'm an economist because I'm cynical. You know, and so
Give me a one-armed economist.
And you get 14 different opinions.
Yeah.
So it's a challenging time.
So we have three undecideds, and then three of you are decided. Let me ask you this: Donald Trump was asked in the debate if he would abide by the outcome of the election, and was anybody struck by his reaction and what he said?
Not as much as they made a big deal out of it. You know, if I was in his position and there was any question about the validity of the votes, I believe the voting system is corrupt. I believe the politicians are corrupt. I believe the Congress is corrupt. So to me, Donald Trump is bringing a lot of issues to the forefront that have been long-standing in our country but have been completely ignored. And I think that, as Caitlin said, he's raising the public's awareness. And I think Hillary is more qualified, but if we get her as our president, I think we're just going to get 4 to 8 more years of the same thing.
Tell me this, Kimberly. Do you think, when you say that elections are corrupt, do you think there have been any elections where corruption has given us the wrong president or given us the unfair president, that they've been that corrupt elections?
I don't know that I'm qualified to answer that question because it's nothing that I'm really a part of. But I do have to wonder, when something like the situation with Al Gore happens, you know, if the popular vote chose him, I mean, it just leaves me wondering.
Right.
And one more time, frustrated with my hands in the air going, you know, we're all just the sheep and they just do whatever they want and they all get away with it.
You just said you didn't have the expertise to give an opinion. I'm from Washington. I'm unfamiliar with people who do that. Ed, quickly, you said that you expected Trump to say that.
I thought he'd be not evasive, but being cute on it a little bit. He will accept it. Mr. Trump is a very successful businessman.
How do you
he knows
know
how
that?
to operate.
How do you know he'll accept it?
Just by the way he handles things. He wanted to leave it open a little bit. He wanted to create a little bit of discussion on it, okay? He's not going to rabble-rouse and try to change the world, all right? He could change the world, I guess.
I don't think he's interested in winning. I really don't.
What's he interested in?
Right.
He's going to start a media empire after this with all the people he's met and surrounded himself with.
You believe that too, John?
Yeah.
No, you think that? Who here thinks Donald Trump is not on the level, that he's in it for some other thing, not to actually win the presidency?
I don't agree.
I think he's in to win. I think behind the scenes, a lot of people are involved for some personal benefit, I guess you could say. So, but I mean, I don't think that he would rally so hard and, you know, ruffle so many feathers to not be in it to win. I mean, if that's the case, then back down and let somebody who potentially is more qualified than you step up to the plate and, you know, give them the shot.
Yeah, I'd like to modify what I said. I can kind of adjust it a little bit. I think Donald Trump, after the primaries, probably was two most surprised Americans at that time were Donald Trump, that he got that far, and Jeb Bush, that he didn't get coordinated.
Yeah.
And so, over time, I think he's wanted to win. Doesn't seem to grow the base. He's got his 30 to 40 million people that are diehard supporters, but he's had a hard time reaching out to the other groups. So, but he's already planning his. I don't think he thinks he's going to win at this point. He's not going to quit. I think he's going to fight till the end, but he's already planning next phase, which is Trump TV at some point.
How many of the others of you here feel like the election system is rigged?
I don't think it's rigged. I think it can be improved on, okay, with the college voting, however they base the final results there. But I think it's as fair as can be, considering what the other alternatives are. Now, how it will change in the future with the push to socialism, that's a whole different story.
So, Barbara, let me ask you. So Donald Trump goes out and talks about the election being rigged. So if you don't think it is rigged, what do you think he's up to?
Well, actually, in the last election, from what I was told by a very close person, is that they would take busloads of people with disabilities into a driver's bureau in Illinois to have them registered to vote, and then they would take them in and vote for them because they did not have the knowledge to do so.
Harry Reid did that here.
So, I can see where sometimes, things can be.
Right. There's not people not playing fair, but do you think that there's enough of that to totally flip an election?
No, I don't, but I don't think there should be any of that, period. I have a son with disabilities. He's 31 years old. He functions at about a 3-year-old level. He would have no knowledge. I have been given a hard time before from case managers and so forth. You need to have him registered to vote. It's like, no, it is not fair for me to have 2 votes. He does not know what he's doing. I will not do that. So things like that, I think, are wrong in the system.
Yeah, they definitely need structure to it. But I mean, as far as Donald Trump saying that it's rigged, how are you running for a country but don't have faith in it? How are you going to call the system rigged, the system that you're running for, that you want to, be in command of, and you're going to say it's rigged? Like, as an American, that's offensive,
The one big thing with what you said, I think where he's getting the rigged end, the Republican Party wants voter ID. You go in, you better have some identification. The Democratic Party doesn't want it. An average individual is saying, well, if you don't want voter ID, I can go in as Jose Jimenez down there and vote.
Right, but what
the voter ID is the biggest area.
Because, why does my state-issued driver's license not prove to you my identification? Why do I need
something like that? As long as you have some
that?
identification. Too many people aren't, though. The voter ID is a very contentious item right now. I want it as tough as hell.
Caitlin, let me ask you. You're undecided. Clock is ticking. Less than 3 weeks left.
Right.
You will vote. Is that right?
Yes.
And so, how are you going to get there? When do you think you'll make up your mind? But what's your process going to be?
Well, I think it ultimately goes back to what I was saying earlier about when we're looking at the presidential candidates, who is the most fit, who has the most experience, and when it comes to integrity, what I'm going to have to tell myself is who is going to be the steward of the millennials, because I'm going to be living here in America for hopefully another 50, 60 years. And I want a president who's going to put, my generation at the forefront and maximize our success here in this country. And so I think ultimately we're looking at these 2 candidates and their integrity. And that's a difficult bridge to cross, because I think both candidates have compromised their integrity in some way, and I think it's going to be ultimately up to the American people and which integrity they're going to want to compromise with.
John, what do you think about that question of integrity? There's been a lot of talk about both candidates and their shortcomings on that front.
Yeah, they both have pretty serious issues, and so at some point you have to say, you have to understand Donald Trump's got a history of integrity issues, so does Hillary Clinton. And so the next question I ask as an economist, okay, who's going to do best for the economy? Okay, assuming that they're both got their challenges, who's going to screw up the economy less? Maybe not, all right, or not do anything to harm a recovery. I think what's happened, John, is And you see this in Las Vegas. We were one of the poster children of the Great Recession. It really,
absolutely.
we had come to believe in Southern Nevada we were immune to the laws of economics and gravity. And we acted that way for many, many years. And then we got hit really hard because we didn't have a diverse economy. And so now that the whole world, I guess, went through this global recession, we're recovering out of it. It's slow. We're finding out that there's certain institutions that haven't worked particularly well, particularly for the working class, and people are angry. And they're looking for something, right? And Donald Trump can emerge from that. Bernie Sanders emerged from that. And now we're trying to figure out where we're going to go as a country. But to me, the core issue is what are we going to do about the economy? Can one elected official or any group of elected officials do anything about the economy? Very little, let's be honest. What I find troubling sometimes with Donald Trump is he's going to do it all alone. You know, no one does it all alone, right? And Hillary Clinton's kind of part of the system. And so my concern is okay, assuming they both have kind of shaky integrity, who's going to help the economy, do less harm to the economy as it comes out, as it continues its recovery? That's my focus.
Let me take a little survey here of the integrity questions. We'll start with Hillary Clinton. So there have been these disclosures, hacked emails with showing us a little behind the scenes of the Clinton campaign, some speeches she gave to Wall Street. There's also the question of her email server. How many, for you all, are those a big issue, or are they a secondary issue if the first issue is, say, the economy?
Huge issue. As far as the emails, last night when she discussed it, however briefly, she was blaming the Russians. The Russians are the bad guys. Okay? No, they're not the bad guys. This is war. Okay, Russians don't like us, we don't like them. They're going to go after anything they can. She should have taken responsibility at that point in time. And what was on the emails, she didn't do that. She never took any responsibility, she blamed the Russians.
As a Trump supporter, Ed, what do you make of his position on Russia?
He claimed not to know Mr. Putin, okay? I'll go back a few generations. When Russia was walking all over Eastern Europe, it was in the Carter administration, if you recall. Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, they're beating the hell out of them. Ronald Reagan came in, they didn't take one step. What that indicates is that strong leadership, getting back to your point on the economy, one person can turn it around. It takes some leadership. And do we have that?
But you know, the Reagan example is a good one. Ronald Reagan was tough on the Soviets from the minute he came out of the womb.
Oh,
I mean, so
yeah.
why? So you knew where he stood, even though he didn't know Gorbachev. You knew where he stood on the Soviets. But Donald Trump has a kind of there's a safe space for Vladimir Putin and the Russians.
He will take a strong stance. Reagan's biggest strength, you didn't screw around with him. I'm sure I would love to have been a fly on the wall when he spoke to the Russians. He didn't know him in this type thing. He basically told him, don't take a step, I'm going to punch your teeth out.
And you think Trump will do that too?
Very much so. Trump, he's a tough son of a gun. He is a tough son of a gun. He will not back down. We saw what happened to Mrs. Clinton when she was Secretary of State, her short stay there, what North Korea did. They embarrassed the country, they embarrassed her. Maybe she's beyond that. She said one day, I will take it as a personal affront if you do the missile tests into the ocean. We will consider that bad. What did they do the next day? They did the missile tests into the ocean. I mean, they said, you're a jerk, don't tell me what to do.
Let me ask you, Barbara, Donald Trump, who you support, this videotape that came out of him talking about grabbing women, now these
Horrendous.
accusers.
Terrible.
What's that?
Terrible.
So did it change what was your reaction when you heard about that and then these accusers coming forward?
I think that the accusers came forward because of what he said. Why didn't they come out years ago? That's my reaction. As I have a hard time believing what these people said. I hope that I am wrong, that he did not do that. Because if he did that, that is just, to me, that is like one of the worst things that you can do and have done to a person. Whether it's female doing male, male doing a female, I don't care about that. That is just terrible to me. But also then you have Hillary, okay, you can be pregnant for 9 months and then abort the baby. I have a problem with that. What it comes down to me is the fundamental beliefs, the Christian beliefs, and I do not find them in Hillary. And so it overweighs with Trump.
Were you going to jump in there, Kimberly?
Yeah, the question of integrity, I mean, I believe Donald Trump is an absolute buffoon, but he's obviously a successful, intelligent man to have gotten where he has from where he came from. And he has managed to surround himself with intelligent people, and I think if he were commander-in-chief, he would do the same. Hillary does have a lifelong history of being in politics and the attorney field, shall we say. But the integrity issue isn't as much of an important thing to me as it is to deal with the exact issues of abortion, of gun control, of the economy. Our economy is in a very scary place. And you're right, I don't think that one person can turn around and change all these things. A lot of it, I think, has to fall back to Congress. As far as dealing with foreign countries, Hillary is a bit more qualified. A lot of countries don't respect women the way we do. And we've seen the way that some of the other world women leaders are treated as well. You know, it's a really tough choice. We always say every 4 years we're going to vote for the lesser of two evils. Everyone I know has and still does. But the issues to me are more important, you know, than exactly their integrity and their character.
I want to get back to the issues in a second, but Corey, let me just ask you on this question of character and integrity. You're a supporter of Hillary Clinton's. How do you think through some of the challenges and some of the views people have about Hillary Clinton and her lack of trustworthiness? And what is that? How do you make sense of all that?
Well, I think as we've seen years and years, you know, in presidential debates, when you have the whole world with their eyes on you, there are going to be people that are going to dig up the most awful of things that they can find to discredit you. However, if I were a patient going in to have life-changing surgery, do I want the doctor who is well seasoned and have done this surgery many, many times before? Or do I want to take my chance on the rookie who's just coming out of, you know, school and doesn't have the knowledge or the experience, you know, in doing something like that? You know, it's tough, you know. It's tough to decipher from their personal things that they have going on versus what they can do for the country. And I mean, you know, the whole email thing, until she's proven guilty, she's innocent. I mean, that's what our country operates off of. Why is it different for certain situations and for certain individuals when it can benefit somebody, you know, more or less?
But what she has admitted is she did have her own private server.
Right.
And for you, is that something that, you know, it was kind of like a white lie, like a small thing, or?
I think that she, by not coming up front, you know, it did put some uneasiness in individuals, but I think there's far more greater things to worry about in the world than somebody's Yahoo account.
Right. So, John, your issue is the economy. Let's just go around the table quickly and see, Kimberly, I'll come back to you. Just in terms of the issue that for you is the most important and that you think the president has some connection with.
I would say gun control is a huge issue for me. I am totally pro Amendment 2 and pro guns, and I don't think that we need any more government regulation. We have plenty of it. They pass plenty of laws that we don't even know about and never get to vote on. All these riders they attach to bills that are passed that affect us and we don't even know until it happens to us personally. That's a huge issue. Abortion, I'm very pro-choice. I think a woman's body is hers to do with how she chooses. I don't believe that Hillary's thought is to rip the child out of the womb in 9 months, but there are a lot of cases where an abortion is an appropriate thing. Overpopulation is huge on our planet. It is the #1 issue I think is really facing our planet, and it's completely ignored. The Congress, oh my goodness, there should be term limits on these people. You know, the things they get away with, the pensions, the free student loans for their kids. I mean, you can go on and on and on down the list about, and they tie the president's hands and make it difficult for the president to accomplish a lot.
Yes.
We'll get to Caitlin. I want to ask you about issues in a moment, but this question of Congress. Let's go around very quickly on the table. How many people in Congress now do you believe are corrupt? Give me a percentage. John, I'll start with you. So 100 for Kimberly. John, what do you?
You know, the Congress is a reflection of the voters, right? And so we're a representative democracy. We vote these guys in office. Are they corrupt? They are no more corrupt than the average voter. Everyone's out for themselves in many ways. And so are they really taking money under the table? You know, I don't know. I mean, all I know is to get to Washington and to succeed in Washington, you have to be a calculating politician.
Yes.
And one of the things that Hillary does have for her, if I can pivot a little bit, John, is she's a calculating politician, as I said earlier, dealing with other calculating politicians, both domestically and internationally. And so, are they corrupt? I find it interesting to end up leaving with more money than when they started, more often than not. But the system has been like this since the Republic started. You go back and you read the history books of what was going on in the 1800s, it was even worse, some of the things that were said and done. So I'm not sure it's a function of modern times. I think it's a function of human nature and politics and governing other people.
Anybody else want to venture a percentage on their views about the?
There's a level of corruption. Now, whether or not everybody is, probably not. There are good-hearted, God-fearing individuals that stand by, doing the right thing. But there is definitely a high level of corruption going on in Congress, politics in general.
I think there is a 100% level of corruption, but there are varying degrees of it. A lot of them are crimes of opportunity. It isn't always a cash graft, say.
Right.
A lot of times, it's like, will you help me pass this bill and I'll owe you one. I mean, just like in Charlie Wilson's War. I understand that.
They're not corrupt per se, they're conniving as hell. Every single one. They will connive like crazy.
Well, here's a question. Donald Trump probably knows how to connive a thing or two.
Oh, he has
right?
to.
Right?
He succeeded.
So
Don't forget. He succeeded in the toughest avenue of all, in private business. Okay, you be successful or not be successful. That was raised earlier. Does he really want to win? That's the only way he knows how to play the game. You have to win when you're out in the private enterprise. And he desperately wants to win. Will he win? Probably.
So it sounds like conniving's a good thing to be.
It can be. It can be. I mean, you have to fight dirty sometimes.
Yeah, but if it's working for self, if it's working for the country and us as a whole against other international countries, I mean, hey, I'm going to stand by, my country. But when it's working for self, then that's when it's like, okay, we got to draw the line somewhere.
I think there's a fine line between conniving and strategic. And as far as the candidates go, what I heard last night is that Hillary has a plan. So whether it's conniving or strategic, Hillary has a plan for our country. I saw Donald Trump have no plan. He did present a lot of issues that are problems, huge problems that have been repeatedly ignored by our administrations. But I don't see him presenting a plan to the country for how do we fix it and how do we go forward. And I'm not saying all Hillary's programs and ideas are right and are perfect. Marijuana is another. We should legalize the hell out of it. We would be out of debt next year,
But if we're all high and we all have guns, isn't that mayhem, Kimberly?
We're not going to all be high. And look at the crime that has decreased in Colorado. They've made so much money since it's been legal. They gave all the taxes back. A man at the caucus told me this. He had just moved here from Colorado, and I haven't smoked pot in 28 years. So I won't be, but I still think that as a tax base, it's huge, and it would bring a lot of jobs here. But do we have ties with the Mexican cartel? Is that why we are hesitant to,
legalize it and grow our own, and that's a little.
It takes it out of the hands of the criminals, by the way. All that stuff coming over from Mexico. If they legalize it here, people are going to get high anyway.
Is everybody here for legalization, by the way? Yeah. I'm sorry. Who here is for legalization? Barbara, give us the anti-case.
I don't think there needs to be more fried brain cells, for one.
It's going to go on, though, isn't it?
Okay,
Yeah, it's going to happen regardless. Alcohol.
there's other ways to bring money in.
how?
Right.
There's healthier, there's better ways to bring money.
Let me ask you this question, Barbara. Corey made the case that if you're going to get surgery, good to have a doctor who knows the the ins and outs of surgery, not somebody who's new to the task. Well, that obviously that's a way of looking at the presidency that makes it pretty good for Hillary Clinton. So how do you see?
You have your new doctor though that's just got the new training, And
Is willing
you know,
to try something different and something groundbreaking and revolutionary. That happened to my husband. He had an ankle replacement. We saw 9 doctors before we could find one, and many of them were experienced doctors, head of USC, head of UCLA. They refused to do it. They flat out refused to do it. And we found a doctor who tried something new and tried something different. And my husband's walking. He has a limp, but he's walking.
That's
But
amazing.
let me jump in, and I think to tie into it, if you don't mind, John.
Sure, and then-
with the doctor analogy, the problem with Donald Trump is the way he answers questions like this. It appears he graduated from the Trump Medical School.
Yes.
Okay, because he's going to do the best surgery. It's going to be great. It's going to be the greatest surgery ever done, but there's no details. You know, it's always these bombastic statements of great and wonderful. We're going to get tired of winning. When they win so much, it's just going to be unbelievable. And that says nothing. They just tells you nothing. And I don't
Talking
know.
about experience, the one key underlying factor is experience. We have a president right now, zero experience. He oversaw the murder capital of the country in Chicago. That was his claim to fame, and he got elected as president. That's zero on a national level experience.
But that has nothing to do with Trump's technical abilities. I mean,
Because
Let me-
keep going back to experience.
Let me get back
He knows
to
how to run things.
Caitlin, let me get back to the question of issues for you. You talked about who's going to be the steward for the millennial generation, but is there an issue, a single issue that for you is really important?
Absolutely. I think in regards to the economy, I'm looking for a candidate who's going to recognize the legitimacy that small businesses have in moving the economy forward. I am the daughter of a small business owner. I have seen what tax breaks for my father's small business has done for the local economy and driving forward American values. I mean, when you decrease these taxes on small businesses, you're allowing for this profit to exist within the economy and for that small business owner. So this profit per se can allow that small business to expand out into the local community, providing jobs for our fellow Americans. And ultimately, impacting it out, that small business owner is able to provide jobs, is able to go shop at the locally owned grocery store, is able to put food on the table for their family, buy dance lessons, or sponsor the local Little League. I mean, you're ultimately increasing the quality of American life at a local level, which I think is incredibly important.
Has the NFIB been in touch with you? That was a great pitch. Great pitch for small business. Barbara, what about you? What's a big issue for you?
Morality and values based on what the country was based on. I think that the laws that Obama has passed, the way the country has, I call it downturning. Some of the other people are proud of it and happy for it. I personally am against it. The homosexuals, the abortions, all this stuff I am against. And I think that right now these children and young adults, they're getting it so where, okay, it's legal, it's okay. They're taking God out of the country and they're not gonna know. And even as these kids become parents, they're not gonna be teaching their kids any different.
When Donald Trump says make America great again, is that what you hear? That it's going to go back to before the time that you're now describing?
That's part of it. That's part of it, and I think him voting the judges in, I think that's a big issue on each one has total different judges of who they're gonna pick.
So
I think that
the
is,
Supreme Court is important
Yes.
for you.
yes.
Corey, what about you? A big issue.
A big issue is definitely economy. I definitely believe that we need to strengthen our economy. You know, we need to provide and help, bring up the middle class, the lower class. Not everybody at that level does not want to succeed, but they just don't all have the opportunity to do so. And I think that it would help to create opportunity for those individuals, not saying that so they can be billionaires, but just so that they can be comfortable in life, so that they can live and be able to support their children and play Little League and put food on the table. We need a strong economy on the ground level in order for, it to rise up and be strong all the way across the board.
What about you, Ed?
It's the economy. People knock the Trump tax cuts. Do you know what year the United States government had its highest tax collection, money coming into the IRS, it was a year after the Bush tax cuts. Lower the taxes, money is back in the hands of the small businessman. They create more jobs. The more jobs that are created, those people pay taxes and so on, so that the national economy will grow with tax cuts. Right now, there's one side that is pushing to socialism. How good is socialism? Ask England. You pay 75% of your money in taxes. How about Canada? Try to get a doctor there with socialism. Europe, they're underwater with the socialism. They're trying to push that here, where your taxes are going to go through the roof. We don't have an economy based on high taxes.
John, tell me about the current situation with government. Do you think, I think you mentioned earlier before, it's been worse in American history. It's kind of always been this way. Is that where we are right now? Are we in kind of, it's always been this way, or it's worse than it was? Where are you in terms of the government that we have and the president's, the president will...
We've always had challenge. I think for some of our older folks here, not you, Caitlin, because you probably don't remember this, but I remember 1968. It was pretty bad. I was in high school at the time, ready to go to college, worried about going to Vietnam and all those things. And we think it's bad, and that was pretty bad then. The early 60s was pretty bad. It's disconcerting to me that I thought we'd gotten beyond the racial issue, and we still seem to have that undercurrent of that. But I think what happened, John, is that, as I mentioned earlier, Great Recession exposed a lot of issues. The working class, particularly the white working class, woke up after the Great Recession and said, oh my God, the Republican Party has been telling all these promises all these years. Really only taking care of country club Republicans. And that's why Donald Trump emerged and all these sorts of things. We still have an uneven recovery. It concerns me that we often see government as completely bad. Government can do great investments in infrastructure. We need to do more of that. One of the challenges we've had here in Southern Nevada, and it's nationally, and we track these numbers all the time, the recovery's been uneven. Wages are still finally recovering after you adjust for inflation. So we've had stagnant wages. And while I'm a small businessman also, and I like to think we're the job creators, we're not. The job creators are consumers with purchasing power. Because if they don't have the money to buy things, doesn't matter how much of our services were being offered Caitlin's dad's business, they're not buying. And so it's been a very uneven recovery. And I don't know what can be done with that other than having policies in place that actually help the middle class and help the small business community. We just haven't seen that yet. And so I'm concerned that do we have the wherewithal and the strength to do it? Whoever gets elected, this is the challenge, right? Whoever gets elected, the Congress is going to not appear is going to be working with them. And so that's where this gridlock occurs. Same thing with the Supreme Court justices. Neither Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton can push their guys through without getting confirmations. And so there's check and balance. That's how it's designed. It's kind of designed for gridlock in many ways.
But if Congress keeps stalling on the acceptance of their nominations, then the court system just backs up more and more, and it's worse and worse. And, child custody cases and divorces that need to be handled and property settlements, estates, that just backs up the court system.
Right.
Caitlin, give me your sense of optimism about the future of our national government.
Well, I think looking towards the future for our national government, I think there's two phrases that can be the most poisonous in the minds of the American people. And that's one, I don't care, and two, we've always done it this way. And I think if we continue down those paths, if we keep having the American people have either of those mindsets, like, okay, well, I don't care because Washington is corrupt, because they've always done this way and they've always done it this way. I think we have to call for an entire political reform. I mean, we can't just sit here. We are the greatest country in the entire world. And I never expect mediocrity from the United States of America. And I certainly don't think we should keep perpetuating broken policy from broken Washington. So really, this is where the voice of the American people comes into play. Like, we all have to be aware, we have to be educated, and we have to be involved in American politics.
Kimberly, it's the day after the election. Hillary Clinton is president. What's your quick reaction?
Not surprised. I have hope.
Caitlin?
I pray that her policy translates to keep American values at the forefront.
Ed?
I respect the office. I do not respect her.
Oh no. She needs prayer. The country always needs prayer.
I say bless her and all that she does.
I think she'll be able to negotiate with the Congress to get things done with Ryan and McConnell.
It's now the day after the election, Ed. Donald Trump has won. What's your reaction?
I'll be pleased. I wish him well. Keep a cool hand and do your best.
Kimberly?
I hope he finds really good people to surround himself with and keep himself in check, and I have hope.
Caitlin?
I urge Donald Trump to move forward in this country with a reverent mindset in regards to pushing forth the American economy while maintaining just pushing forward again the integrity.
John?
Pray that Jon Stewart comes back to Comedy Central, and America will be great again when he comes back.
Corey, what's your feeling?
I'm moving off the grid. No. Good luck with I'm open to change, and we'll see what happens.